And I was just thinking we could do this forever. It feels so good to be free. Free from the constraints of gravity, free from the shackles of society, free from the bonds of normality. Here, Iguana's life doesn't have to make sense. Life here can be simple, relaxing, enjoyable. Yes, there are predators, but really that's not much of a concern. There's plenty of prey around, and it's usually easy pickings. So, yes, there's much to enjoy here if you're a marine iguana. Just don't go wandering too far away from your home turf. Or you might end up like this iguana who's currently being hunted by a hungry racer snake. For this little guy, he's already had a pretty traumatic few minutes. He hatched not long ago, most likely moments before the ghost crab snatched his tail. But hey, that's just how things go sometimes. It's nothing he can do about it now, but he needs to keep moving, and he needs to keep moving fast because there are other dangers out there. As well as opportunistic ghost crabs looking for a tasty lizard snack, there are also specially adapted marine iguanas. Specifically, there are killer marine iguanas. But these are no ordinary iguanas. These are racer snakes, and they've evolved with speed in mind. They can slither at 7 miles per hour, which may not sound all that fast, but when you consider these guys are only about 2 feet long, well, that makes them among the fastest reptiles on the planet, and they can reach their top speed within seconds. This means that our baby iguana really has to move if he wants to stay alive. Our baby iguana was born on Santa Cruz Island in the Galapagos, a place where Darwin first developed his theory of evolution. It's also a place where giant tortoises roam and marine iguanas bask. Marine iguanas are known for being slow-moving, clumsy on land, awkward, uncoordinated reptiles. However, in the water, they are graceful, agile swimmers. In fact, they are the only lizards on the planet that can swim underwater. They do this by keeping their mouth open to allow water to flow over their gills. And yes, they actually do have gills, even though they shouldn't really. Evolution is a wonderful thing. They use these adaptations to hunt for food in the sea, where they feed on algae and occasionally fish eggs. Then they return to land, shake themselves dry, and bask in the sun. It's not all that easy being a marine iguana. Not only do they have to contend with giant Galapagos tortoises, aggressive pelicans, and opportunistic sharks, they also have to contend with lava. That's right. Marine iguanas live on an active volcano. In 1965, a lava lake spilled over a large chunk of their habitat, yet somehow they survived. Even more recently, in 2018, the lava came back, once again threatening their very survival. However, once again they pulled through. So it's clear to see why the marine iguana spends as much time in the ocean as possible, away from the danger of lava lakes and giant tortoises. Life would be so much easier if it wasn't for those pesky racers. The racer is a relatively recent addition to the Galapagos. They arrived only about 130 years ago, and humans probably helped them on their way. However, since then, they've thrived. Now they are the main threat to many of the endemic species on the Galapagos. Even the Galapagos hawk struggles to stand up to these speedy reptiles. So the marine iguana has every reason to be afraid of them. Now, when the lava returned in 2018, it destroyed all of the native seed banks on the island. Now, normally, the seeds would have come from the marine iguana themselves. See, marine iguanas poo out seeds, literally. And this is how plants spread on the Galapagos. It's a bit gross, but it's nature. However, with no marine iguanas, there were no seeds. The island was a barren wasteland devoid of life. It looked like it would never recover. However, within months, new plants began to sprout. Where did they come from? Well, the seeds were brought in on the wind from neighboring islands. Over time, they germinated and the island began to bloom once again. The iguana was safe. The marine iguana lays its eggs in the sand, which isn't ideal when you consider there are also marine iguanas living in the sand. If the eggs are discovered, they will be eaten. If they're stepped on, they will break. If the lava erupts, they will burn. Really, it seems like there is no chance of survival for these creatures, but somehow they managed to pull through. This iguana hatched from one of the few eggs that didn't end up getting eaten, burned, drowned, or crushed. Now he needs to get to safety, and he needs to get there fast. He's making good time, but his pursuer is right behind him. The snake flicks his tongue out, tasting the air for danger. Luckily for our iguana, he's too small for the snake to catch right now, so he darts between the rocks and the snake can't follow. The snake knows he can't catch the baby iguana right now, so he stops chasing. Instead, he slithers up a rock and basks in the sun. The baby iguana thinks he's got away with this, but he'll have to keep moving if he wants to stay alive. Life on the Galapagos is tough. The young are constantly under attack from the adults and everything else that lives on the islands. The good news is that they grow up with immunity to all of the plants on the island. So if they accidentally eat something poisonous, they won't die. Instead, they'll be fine after a couple of hours and maybe a little bit sick. As the iguana runs away, he looks back to see if the snake is following. He can't believe how close he came to death. He'd only just hatched, and already he'd seen more trauma than most lizards twice his age. He'd lost his tail, been chased by a shark, and almost gotten his head bitten off by a marine iguana. What's next? A lava eruption? Maybe he glances back at the volcano. Maybe it's best if he doesn't look. A few minutes later, and our brave iguana finally reaches the ocean. He flops into the water and swims away. The ocean is his favorite place. He loves swimming around, checking out what's going on below the waves. He loved hunting for algae, and he loved hunting for fish eggs. The water is a wonderland, and he has all the time in the world to explore it. Our baby iguana has managed to evade the killer snake. But for how long? The snake could swim, too, and it would be eager to make a meal of the baby iguana. Still, the iguana had made it to the water. It was the most dangerous part of his journey, and he'd survived. Marine iguanas are perfectly suited to life in the ocean. Their eyes, which can't pop out like most lizards, are perfect for seeing underwater. Their nostrils are connected to their sinuses, which helps to reduce the pressure in their head when they're deep underwater. And their teeth are perfect for crushing hard-shelled prey. Although these adaptations make them perfectly suited to life in the sea, they also make them vulnerable on land. Their eyes are useless out of water. Their nostrils are basically useless on land. And their teeth mean that they can't easily eat soft fruits. That leaves only one option. Marine iguanas primarily eat seaweed. Now, you might think that eating seaweed would be a bad idea. After all, it's kind of salty, which means dehydrating. Sure, there are plenty of salt glands on the iguana's head, but that only helps so much. Marine iguanas drink seawater to get rid of their salt intake. Yet this also means that they're constantly thirsty. Marine iguanas spend as much time as possible in the ocean, but that's not always possible, so they have to get used to feeling thirsty all the time. Our baby iguana took a big risk by staying on land for so long. If he'd been bitten by the snake, well, he'd have no chance of escaping in the water. Luckily for him, he made it, and he's now free to roam the ocean as much as he wants. He can swim over to the nearby island, take a rest, and then swim back when he's ready. It's the best way to live on the Galapagos. Just keep your eyes peeled for killer snakes. If you thought this was an intense story, you should watch this Iguana vs. Lava battle. Click the link on screen now.